As I said at the outset, their name was redacted. Their last name was redacted in the Epstein files. And when you look at Kash Patel talking about the fact that the Epstein files proved no sex trafficking, and now we have other people in there who have been convicted of separate sex trafficking as well that probably wasn't even fucking separate, because you have victims who are saying that they were raped inside Jeffrey Epstein's New York mansion by these guys who are now convicted of that. Your government hates you. They are lying to you, and they will keep doing it if you let them do it. Perjury. It's straight up perjury. Kash Patel saying things like that. You useful idiot. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Great Society Show. I am Julian Dorey.
And I'm Joey Deef. How you doing?
How you doing? All right, so Jeffrey Epstein allegedly has a child. Let's just start with that one. Just a little bing right off the top right there. That is in a report from the Daily Mail. We will talk about that in a little bit, because I do want to say, when we see these claims coming out that are from evidence, to be clear, we'll discuss it. It is from evidence that the Daily Mail was able to put together. They didn't just make it up or anything like that, but it is based on some written claims. We can't just assume it's completely true right away, but there certainly appears to be a there, and we will discuss that. But, we're also going to get into the fact that Princess Diana keeps coming up in this stuff. Isn't that fascinating?
A lot of people keep coming up in a lot of things, and it's just had my fucking head spinning for the last few weeks, if I'm being quite honest.
I'm with you. In Princess Diana's case, it's never been a negative context.
No,
I appreciate.
No, of course
most
not.
people that you're talking about, Thief,
yeah,
quite a negative context.
I'll pump the brakes there, folks. She's a gem. She was a gem.
Yes. She's certainly one of those people that, considering the world she was from and the people she was around and the stereotypes that in many cases we righteously so have on it, seem to have been a lone shining light, if you will, in many cases. For all her imperfections, certainly seemed to have a lot of things on target. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I just think it's a very small glimmer of light, like a tiny, like when you're like looking at those little, you know how basements have those tiny windows in the corner? It's like the little light shining through that.
Yeah, kind of like that warehouse Tommy G and me went to.
Yeah,
You see the train in the distance, but it's so far. Yeah.
And if there's a little bit of smoke or dust, you see the ray and you're like, well, that's all we got.
That's it. And we're holding on to hope.
Yeah, that's Diana.
Yeah. Well, we will discuss that more in detail. There's also a video with that, with some...
I didn't see that.
Some witness... I shouldn't say witness, with a Epstein survivor basically testifying what she had heard in conversations with Ghislaine as it relates to one Princess Diana. It didn't surprise me, but we will get into that. I also want to say... I just finished a podcast with my man Henry Abbott, who I have shouted out many times over the years on my podcast whenever we cover this case. As a refresher for people who maybe haven't heard that, Henry is a long time NBA reporter, meaning like reporting on the National Basketball Association, and he fell into this story in 2020. Really 2019, as he describes it, where he noticed a few teams were owned by Apollo Global related people, the private equity firm, and he knew that they had some serious ties to Jeffrey Epstein. So he started this idea of like, well, let me just look into that. And it turned into this 21 chapter odyssey that dates all the way back to fucking the Treaty of Versailles, with insane history covering every angle of stuff you can ever imagine. He put it out. It did not get anywhere near the love it deserved at the time. I read it back then. I read it in 2021, was blown away. And now he's checking back into the case, which is really cool. He's doing some great work on it, and we're going to be able to give that a light. So you guys will be able to hear that podcast. I have been recording so many podcasts, though, that like we are trying to get out podcasts that are evergreen and also get out the podcasts that are covering this case or some news and stuff like that. So I appreciate your patience. Obviously, you got the first part of Epstein survivor Lisa Phillips' podcast from this past week. There will be another part of that coming. I think that's going to be the end of this coming week, because I have to get the Chris Hansen episode out, the Sonny and Beck episode out, which might be the day before this one. I don't know. I'm trying to keep track of all of it, but just bear with me. We're filming a lot. We have a lot coming in as well, and I'm trying to balance that the team is me, Alessi, Deef, Danny G, and Christian the Venezuelan. So like, you know, I'm always looking at the operation that like Stephen Bartlett has at Diary of a CEO. It's incredible. I think he's got like 50 people. I got to figure out how to do that at some point. I don't want 50, but you know, 7 would be good. Yeah. If we had like 6 or 7, I wouldn't be sitting here editing episodes until 11 o'clock the night before, and we might be able to get them out a little faster. Nonetheless, it's been really cool because, you know, Deef, Alessi, Danny, all the guys behind the scenes, we're all wired in and trying to get this all out to you guys, and I just appreciate your patience with me doing that. Wanted to put that out there for sure. But today, I mentioned we're going to get into the Epstein baby thing, which I also do want to say on that. If it starts getting to some potential, you know, children that he may have fathered and everything, this is really, really important. I understand everyone out there, we in the public are like investigating this case and all that, but it should go without saying, it needs to be said, no kid is guilty of the sins of their father. No kid should have to answer for the sins of their father. Identities need to be protected. If stuff like that somehow becomes available, it's really important that people aren't tweeting that out or discussing that or anything. That's obviously completely unfair to an innocent kid. So, and that's if that ends up being the case. But I do want to say that we are going to discuss, though, Zorro Ranch today, which certainly would be ground zero. Mm-hmm. You got to be careful saying that around Jeffrey Epstein. Careful. But it would be the ground zero, so to speak, of potential baby making and things that are far more sinister than just that, for sure. Hey guys, 3 quick things. Number 1, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's a huge, huge help. Number 2, if you'd like to join my Patreon for early uncensored releases of the full episodes, you can join via the link in my description or in the pinned comment below. And number 3, if you'd like to join my clipping community for a chance to make content from the show and make money, you can join via the Discord link in my description below. We're going to get into a Bill Gates story that my man Sayer G has been looking into. If you have not seen Sayer's work on Twitter investigating the case, it's unbelievable, man. I mean, he's putting together on his Substack the whole these basically like Sherlock Holmes case studies laid out with evidence, and then he even shortens it for you in threads on Twitter. I just got off the phone with him. He's going to be coming on the show next month, so we'll have a lot to discuss there. But he reported on one that Deef and I were just like a little mind blown on at the implications of it, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into Jared Kushner as well today. That's got to be done. Jared Kushner keeps coming up in so many different angles. And who was saying the other day, someone said it really carefully. Fuck, who was it?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Can you type in Jared Kushner, new Epstein? Someone said that, and I want to clarify that. Someone was saying, Deep's going to find who it was, that in a lot of ways there's patterns of Jared Kushner that look like Epstein. However, that doesn't, they're not suggesting he's a sex trafficker or anything like that. They're suggesting from like a fixer kind of standpoint, which, you know, isn't good, but
it wasn't.
Oh, was it Professor Jiang?
Was it Professor Jiang who said it?
I think it was. But I also have to put an asterisk on that. As entertaining as Professor Jiang is, Deef and I have been looking at this guy for like a year. I don't know if he's a CCP agent or not. You know, he's very entertaining and he's very smart. And we paid attention to what he's been saying for a long time. But
yeah, I like him.
Yeah, you got. I like him too on the surface. You do have to take what he says with a grain of salt. Yes. So there I am falling into my own trap right there. But I will say, regardless of who is saying that, having gone through a lot of the data on who Jared Kushner is connected to, obviously we know who he is in his proximity to the president and all that, literally by family. I could see the case for that being made, that he is someone that kind of makes things happen with a lot of different people, including people that aren't exactly clean. That said, once again, and I need to say this, there's no evidence right now that he's doing any of the really nasty stuff or anything like that that Jeffrey Epstein is accused of. You know, I've said it since the beginning. I'm going to keep saying this. we got to go where evidence is and where things, where there looks like there's a there, and we have to stay in the area of when we're speculating on stuff, and we also still, even if we're disgusted by all these people and want them all to go down, we have to stay in a position to where we don't make very big accusations that really don't have anything that you can point to be able to say, yeah, that could back my case in a court of law. Whereas, we're going to talk about some code words today. When we look at some of these code word emails, we may not know officially what they all mean yet, but like we know that's something bad or some things bad. There's a good example to where you can't make all the way there yet with the jump, but it's getting pretty fucking close, obviously. So we're going to talk about that. Then I got a few other things on the docket as well. Once again, we were just looking at this for like an hour before and just getting our links and everything ready to go. And I'm like, what do we... like, are these the next 7 episodes? I don't know. We'll find out as we go through it because I don't want to sit here for 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours. It's a little bit too long, especially with my dumbass just talking. So we'll get to what we get to within, the regular 90-minute kind of thing and go from there.
Yeah, I was laughing yesterday because I was like, I guess we haven't really talked about like a movie on Patreon in a long time.
Yeah, this used to be such a pure just...
We're living in the moment.
We're living in the moment. Yeah, Deef and I were talking to about 200 people on Patreon for a year there. Just, Deef gummied up, me talking about like, what we doing today? And then, we just culture.
Yeah, with that said, though, thanks for all the love. There's been a lot of cool comments, too, so that's been nice to see. But.
Yes, I do appreciate people supporting this stuff. I've talked about, and that's actually what I want to get to first right now. I've talked about the distraction measures of society and what is going on, and you can see it. They do these things right in front of you. Timing, 1 time can be an accident, 2 times can be somewhat coincidental, 3 times maybe still a coincidence, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, fucking a million times. Eventually, it kind of is what it is. Yeah. And there are no people in the world who understand news cycles more than the politicians, perhaps with the exception of the people who control them and pay them. So, there is something very serious going on in the world. And we discussed it a lot last week with the Iran war. And I think as this part of the show develops, obviously we're doing our 2 to 3 guest podcasts a week as well. And then we're doing this one as kind of like a bonus on the Saturdays and Sundays. But as this develops, certainly, we're going to be commenting on current events because that's, in addition to some of the fun bullshitting Deef and I would do on Patreon, that's what we did as well. We would just kind of be like, all right, what the hell's going on here? And right now, hey guys, real quick. So we ended up doing like 30 minutes talking about the whole Iran thing. And I really want to keep this on the Epstein files because there was so much to get to today. So I'm going to release that as a separate video on my channel. You can check that out. And once it's up, I will link it down below. But let's cut forward to where we got deep into the files and the things that Deef and I prepared today. I mentioned at the outset that we really got to discuss Zorro Ranch because I was mentioning that there's reports that Jeffrey Epstein has a child. But Zorro Ranch out in New Mexico is one of Jeffrey Epstein's many locations in which he enjoyed time. And it's also probably the least covered of most of those locations, perhaps with the exception of that mansion in Ohio. But we always talk about New York. We talk about Palm Beach. Of course, we talk about the island. There's discussions about places he would stay in London that weren't necessarily his, but were Ghislaine's, and we talk about Paris. But Zorro Ranch gets overlooked a lot, and it also is the center of the conspiratorial sphere because Jeffrey Epstein had many ideas that he floated over the years about eugenics and building a master race and believing that his DNA was superior to other people's DNA, and he wanted to breed all these children. And yet we've never, until Daily Mail gave this one report, we've never had real evidence or an idea that he ever ended up doing that. That said, yeah, my suspicions have always been high that something was going on there. So first of all, first link right there. Jim Comey, his daughter, who seems to be at the middle of a lot of these cases until she was finally fired I believe last year by Trump. Good move by Trump there. But back in 2019, she ordered New Mexico officials to shut down the investigation into Epstein's Zorro Ranch. New evidence has emerged showing that federal prosecutors ordered New Mexico investigators to shut down their probe into the ranch. The discovery is raising new questions about how the federal government handled key aspects of the Epstein investigation. This woman would go on to prosecute Ghislaine Maxwell and convict her of sex trafficking children to no one. I wonder why she did that. And I wonder why she didn't look into the people who ran the ranch and also coordinated things on the island. Dave, you got the second link right there?
Yes, sir.
So Daily Mail, this is courtesy of archive.is because it was behind a paywall, but someone screenshotted it for the whole internet. Daily Mail gave a report on the caretaker couple who ran Epstein's Island and his, quote, human experiments at Zorro Ranch, and the fact that they have vanished. Now, this couple, their names are Bryce and what the fuck was the wife's name? Bryce and Karen Gordon. God, I'm happy that she's named Karen. She sounds like a bitch. But Bryce and Karen Gordon are both ex-New Zealand Defense Forces. Is that correct, Steve, right there? Yep, New Zealand Defense Force, whose names appear thousands of times in the latest tranche of Justice Department documents, both as managers of Zorro Ranch and also in connection with running Epstein's secluded island, Little St. James, in the Virgin Islands. I'm sure they were totally innocent, though, right? What's really unique is that since 2019, no one's been able to find them. No one knows where they went. They've gone away. Let's keep reading here. So their names first came up after New Mexico's legislature launched a truth commission.
Dude, why do they always call this stupid shit that?
Anytime something's called truth, just know it's all going to be lies.
Yeah, or like Ministry of Peace. Like, it's just the opposite.
It's just the opposite. Branding's everything.
It really is.
So they launched a truth commission last month to investigate whether Epstein sexually abused other girls and women on the ranch. Whether he did it. What do you mean whether he did it? We've known he did it there. What do you mean? What are you investigating whether or not he did it there? That's also like, we're going to get to it, but that's like even the least of it. Dirty as hell. Horrible. And yet somehow there's worse crimes than that. Andrea Romero, the New Mexico state representative who spearheaded the commission, told the Daily Mail she considers the Gordons, this couple, to be people of interest in the state investigation and likely will subpoena them to testify about their knowledge of potential crimes on the ranch. By the way, they're creepy looking people. Go down. See him? See that guy right there? That's him. Little mini old school handlebar mustache. All right, let's keep going. I need to get to the article, Deef. I don't give a shit about the pictures. All right, so she told the Daily Mail late last year that neither she nor state officials knew the Gordons' whereabouts, a question she deemed disturbing. Well, I'm glad you recognize it's disturbing, hun. That's one of the reasons we need the commission, so we can track them down, said Romero, who in November told us the office was receiving reports from people claiming to have been drugged and had sex organs and sperm harvested from their bodies on Zorro Ranch. And if you listened to Lisa Phillips, actually, I don't know if she said this in part 1 or part 2. I can't remember. Might have been part 2, but maybe she said in part 1. One of her friends, who's an Epstein survivor, she said in part 1, was trafficked from Cape Town, South Africa, I believe. I hope I'm remembering this right. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And woke up on a medical table in Zorro Ranch. And she's alive today, but she has some suspicions about things that were taken from her. And they were clearly doing odd things here. And what's so strange is that right away in 2019, you have a Comey, the daughter, who's intricately involved with this investigation, shutting down any investigation into the ranch. And you know who bought the ranch, Steve?
No, I don't.
Guy named Don Hafines. That's probably not how you pronounce his name. I don't really give a fuck. Don is running for like Solicitor General or some shit. I don't even care. He's running for some office in Texas. This ranch is in New Mexico, by the way. And he bought Zorro Ranch. No way. and announced that the property is already under construction and is being transformed into a Christian retreat. They're going to get all the demons out of there. We're going to get them out. We're going to turn it into God and serve Jesus. Never buy any of this stuff, man. Never buy any of this stuff, because you know who backs Don in his race? Steve, you want to take a guess who backs him politically?
Steve
Bannon. That's right. Oh. Steve Bannon, who's locked and loaded in these files, just everywhere in these files. I'll get to more of him in a minute. But Steve has been backing this dude for some fucking role in Texas. And the guy obviously has been constructing the place. Who knows? Who knows what that includes and what maybe could be being covered up there? I don't know. Maybe he really is just building a Christian retreat. It's possible. It's possible. I'm certainly suspicious, and you out there should be suspicious as well. But let's get the video of him explaining it. The second one right there.
Yeah.
Let's just hear it from the man himself. This was before these files dropped. He's talking on OAN with Matt Gaetz. Here we go.
Now, you have plans to take something evil and bring it into goodness, bring it into light and positivity. Tell us about that plan.
Well, of course, that is the main reason I bought the property. This was obviously a dark place, and we wanted to put light in a dark place. It always shines the brightest when you do that. My faith is so strong in Jesus, and it really is. And I'm going to make this, the plan all along is to make this property into a Christian retreat. As a matter of fact, it's under construction today. And that's our goal. That's why we named it San Rafael. We named it Saint Raphael, as you probably know, an archangel, and his what he does and helps people with is healing and being the healer, and also blessing those that are traveling. And we think that's really germane to this property.
Yeah, he sounds so excited about it too. Yeah, listen, it could be that. It could. I have to say that. But excuse me for being extremely, extremely reserved and assuming good intentions on people like this. I remember the guy who bought the 71st Street mansion in New York said they're ripping out the interiors, not knocking the building down. They're ripping out the interiors and redoing it for a spiritual makeover or something like that. And when I hear these things, and you see who they're connected to and all that, you're like, this feels like the George Carlin thing, part of that big club.
Yeah,
that you're not in. There's a guy who wants to turn the island into a resort. The guy who bought that. Why are they buying all these evil places? New York, the island, New Mexico, and instead of just being like, we're gonna raise the fucking ground and just like, I don't know, bring a fucking priest out there, spray some holy water, walk the fuck away, and let the wolves have it. No.
Biz.
We got biz.
We need biz.
We need resorts. We need mansions for parties. We need Christian retreats. That's
the
what
American
they do.
way. You take a negative and you flip it positive.
Season 1 of True Detective was simply the prologue.
Yeah. Time is a flat circle, man.
Yeah, I need to get Nick Pizzolatto in here like I need blood in my fucking veins, man.
We're going to do that.
I want to know. Nick is the writer and creator of True Detective, wrote the greatest season in the history of TV in season 1 there. We can forgive him for season 2. Season 3 was pretty good. But incredible, incredible stuff with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. And you just feel like that came from somewhere. Like, and I would love to ask Nick about that. Like that. Because they basically uncover this underground elite fucking dark, sadistic, cabal. Satanic, pedophile cabal link.
Yeah.
Sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't fucking seen that. But that's the whole nature of it. And woo! A lot of the same vibes right here from Don. But by the way, we keep finding Steve connected to all these things. I love the little side plot going on of fucking Roger Stone just going to war with Steve Bannon and just shredding him, just going full troll. I have the link right there. Roger Stone talking about Bannon playing both sides, because Steve Bannon's being exposed in all his text messages and emails with Epstein as being one of those fixer class type people who clearly doesn't believe the things he's saying. He's playing both sides against the middle. But Roger Stone tweets out, new documents reveal Bannon was funneling $40K a month in CCP money to Real American Voice, which is a right-wing cause, all while posturing as anti-CCP. Same stunt he pulled with Epstein. We're seeing this over and over and over again. And we're also seeing Bannon, who had left his position, been fired from his position as chief advisor to Trump. We see him constantly talking with Epstein about Trump, a man that they both knew in different contexts. And I think I have one right there that's a little bit sensitive for the moment, if you will, but where it says Bannon to Epstein. You see that right below it?
Yeah.
And Bannon basically said to Jeffrey Epstein, the best way to quell domestic upheaval is just to attack another country. And Deep has the text up there where first one is Jeffrey Epstein saying, but if you are the president and you get vast riots, how do you balance strength and calm? And Bannon responds, that's the $1 million question. Ideally, you don't get yourself into such a situation. Now he has to be close between two.
He has to choose between two bad options.
It's really small. Two bad options. But he showed weakness, and he won't be able to be strong anytime soon. Unless he launches a foreign intervention. That's a good way to unite the nation. Mind you, they also had a conversation that's been revealed in the files where they talk about Trump's back being against the wall. This is during Trump term 1. And Epstein saying he'll probably just fucking, if his back gets too far against the wall, he'll probably just invade Iran. I'm just saying, I'm just saying.
What do you think about how Bannon's kind of been radio silent too?
Yeah, he keeps doing his show.
Yeah.
Steve Bannon, cat got his tongue. He keeps doing his show. He had my friend Trita on there like a few times talking about the war. Yeah.
Well,
I haven't talked to Trita about that, but
I was curious. I'm like, all right, this is either pure strategy, and he's like, don't even entertain it, don't even pretend it's real, that it's out there, and just stay focused, or I'm just trying to figure out what the play is here.
Well, that's what he's always done with this. He's always like, yeah, we're going to release that interview. Over the years, never does. Talks about Epstein. Yeah, we need all the files released. And now they're released, and he's quiet.
Yeah. And his interview, his interview is that's the one thing you'd think he would be speaking on.
If I were guessing, I think Steve Bannon, and this is a pure guess, pure spec.
Yeah, pure spec.
I think that Steve Bannon knows at least some of or most of the deranged contents of the 2.5 to 3 million Epstein files that have not been released to the public. And I would imagine he's probably even more implicated in those. And I would imagine that there are other people who are equally implicated that are all discussing things behind the scenes with him as a group. This is just me guessing. And he's staying radio silent in the hopes that that never sees the light of day. That would be my guess.
Yeah, makes sense.
But, unless he's continuing to do some amazing work on all his ties and everything like that, Henry Abbott and I were able to discuss it when we sat down, because Henry Abbott is the guy who really blew the lid off this and got no credit for it in 2020. He went down the Steve Bannon rabbit hole and was like, holy shit, everywhere he's connected. But Alessi just put out another great documentary where he talks about, Alessi Alaman, I'm referring to, is on our team and has his own channel called Alessi Alaman. Put out another great documentary discussing a thing that is finally coming to light that I had talked about with him behind the scenes for a lot of years. And now the public's kind of picked it up because of some things in the Epstein files. But Bannon's relationship with Brock Pierce, that's right. The Mighty Ducks actor who has had a very interesting life after acting that gets him involved with people like Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein. Bannon is a ghost, man.
Yeah.
like the way I would describe Bannon when it comes to geopolitical, behind the scenes, financed fixer events of the past 30 some years is I would describe it the way the British soldier who lived through Mel Gibson's invasion of them in The Patriot described Mel Gibson killing his entire fucking unit. He was like a ghost. I couldn't see him. That's Steve Bannon. He's a ghost. He floats into areas. He finds his way into situations culturally, politically, financially, subculturally, cryptocurrency-wise. I mean, he's everywhere, man.
Yeah, he knows the playbook.
And there is just such a litany of evidence that he's a really dangerous guy, to the point that I just don't really see a scenario where he's not that dude. You know, I could see a scenario where he's slightly less powerful than we think. Yeah, I could see that. But like, he ain't working. If you like politically agree with Steve Bannon and like some of the ideas he's put out there publicly, that's fine. But he ain't working for those ideas. It's not serious. And you see how he talks about Trump in these emails and texts. Like, Trump's just a vessel. It's just a vessel for him. You know, it's not like you got no love for the guy or anything like that. It's all fake. It's all fairy dust. Way out there. It didn't exist. You know? So we talked about at the beginning the report with Epstein having a kid. Let's pull up that Daily Mail article right there so that we can go through what this is, because Zorro Ranch is where he talked about the eugenics and the mass breeding and things like that. And you have to wonder if something like this could have come from that, or if this was just like Jeffrey Epstein took advantage of some poor girl and got her pregnant and didn't kill her. I mean, like, you would think, looking at how Jeff seems to handle things, he would have never let that happen. But
I saw a fun tweet that's like, yeah, his daughter, Erica Kirk, you don't obviously not real. I just thought it was really funny because she's going to run the Air Force now.
I need that to be real.
It would explain a lot.
She's the worst, man.
Dude, running the Air Force? What the fuck does Lady Gaga know about cameras? That's literally the first fucking thing. I was like, bro, what?
I like some of the Gaga songs.
Yeah,
what the fuck does she know about cameras?
Come on, bro.
Dude, she is just, it's got to be said. You know, people for a long time, they're like, and I stayed away from it, like, oh, you know, people grieve in weird ways. Dog. She ain't real.
She been leveling up.
She ain't real.
Oh, dude. So horrible.
Ain't real. I'll just leave that there. That's not my lane. But yeah. There's no case to the contrary at this point.
Imagine being in the Air Force. That's what I was like, if I was in the Air Force, I think I'd just resign. I'd be like, guys, are you serious?
Dog. All right, let's look at this. Jeffrey Epstein, this is from Daily Mail. Jeffrey Epstein, allegedly, was a dad. The pedophile's shocking confession and the photo of the blonde he called, quote, the perfect woman. This is the mother of my child, is the quote. That is what Jeffrey Epstein confessed to one of his victims, alluding to a picture of a blonde woman displayed inside his New York mansion, according to bombshell files released by the Department of Justice. In the newly disclosed account, the woman, who claims she was sexually assaulted by Epstein for years since she was 16, told investigators the convicted pedophile had pointed to a photo of a blonde on a beach and claimed she had given birth to his baby. Epstein described the woman as perfect and even displayed a sculpted mold of her torso inside his Manhattan townhouse. The stunning claim, part of the tranche of documents recently released by the Justice Department, is likely to reignite longtime speculation about whether Epstein secretly fathered a child, particularly given longstanding reports that the sex offender wanted to seed a new human race with his DNA.
Oh my God.
What I discussed earlier.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
The claims have been repeatedly denied by Epstein's brother, Mark, who's a totally straight shooter. We should absolutely believe him. You know, he cremated the body because, you know, there's nothing else to see there, obviously. Who insists the late financier never had a child. But the Daily Mail has also uncovered several accounts of Epstein asking women to carry his child, including one FBI interview with a different victim who claimed he wanted her to have his baby. The files also laid bare a striking photograph showing Epstein hugging a woman in his New York home while she cradles a baby in her arms. God, that's so creepy. Jesus Christ. And can you go down to the picture that shows the, I don't even want to see that one. Not that one. The one that shows the letter. Yeah. So go up real quick.
Yeah.
Just above that. The former Duchess of York wrote to Epstein in September 2011, congratulating him on becoming a dad. This is Sarah Ferguson, right? Yeah. She wrote, "Don't know if you are still on this BlackBerry Messenger, but heard from the Duke that you have had a baby boy. Even though you never kept in touch, I still am here with love, friendship, and congratulations on your baby boy, Sarah." The victim who disclosed Epstein's admission of fatherhood spoke to the FBI in January 2020, 5 months after he was found dead in his cell in New York while waiting trial on charges. She had quite a harrowing story to tell. And what is this image I'm looking at, Deef?
Yeah.
What does the inset say?
Handwritten notes from an Epstein victim reveal her claim that the disgraced financier raised the idea of having a child with her during a visit to his Palm Beach mansion.
Okay, and what does the next one say down below it?
Next one is...
The woman wrote that Epstein brought up the idea of her having his baby while they were in Palm Beach, a suggestion that allegedly angered his longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Fuck. If he has a baby, is that like patient zero, you know? Again, just pure spec. But like if he's trying to engineer DNA and shit, like, oh, I didn't even think that angle. That's fucked up.
It gets weird, man.
That's weird.
It gets very weird. But our friend Sayer wrote about some of the bioengineering that Jeffrey Epstein was involved with, with one Bill Gates. And there's some stuff I want to get to today. I'm looking at the time, Deef.
Yeah.
He's talking live here.
Yeah, we're 1:05 in.
I don't know. We'll see where we're at, but some things I definitely want to get to today. And if I just take out that whole part talking about Iran earlier, I'll do it. I don't care. So if you guys didn't hear something about Iran, I took that out because there was too much important stuff to get here.
Yeah, let it rip,
Epstein,
dude.
and we can talk about that because unfortunately we're in the middle of a war that I don't know if that's going to end soon. I hope it ends yesterday, but I don't know. But Sayer G wrote this piece on Substack about a strange 2013 mafia-like back and forth that Jeffrey Epstein had with Boris Nikolic, who was Bill Gates' chief science advisor, regarding distributing vaccines to Pakistani children under the control of the Pakistani Taliban, which is a terrorist group according to the United States. They have them listed as that, and they are directly affiliated with the Taliban in Afghanistan. So what's interesting about this is Bill Gates stays out of it like a mob boss. He's discussed, but by name. So they weren't very good at the whole omerta thing of like, you know, we're not going to discuss the big guy's name.
Yeah,
but,
like,
you know. I guess in Russia or wherever Boris is from, they're not as good at, you know, what we're good at in Jersey.
Easy.
But Boris goes back and forth with Jeffrey Epstein discussing the logic of how to be able to do this, which it had to do with like a polio vaccine, which isn't weird at all. That, you know, maybe they're trying to test that on some kids in a third world country living under a terrorist regime. That's neither here nor there. But in essence, there's also that Norwegian diplomat. What the fuck is his name?
Rod Larson.
Okay, Rod Larson, who's involved helping facilitate this. Rod Larson has some weird connects with like what's listed as the conservative movement in Europe. And like, again, you're seeing in these files that Jeffrey Epstein and the people of these classes,
they're playing
they
ball.
pay everyone and
Everyone.
they play all sides.
Yeah.
There's no left and right to them. And I've said, it has cemented my theory that I've said forever that shit doesn't exist. It's just how the people that want things to be control people to divide them. And I'm seeing, I am feeling that and feeling vindicated in that the more I read these emails and the different types of people who are talking.
It affirms your Bannon stuff too. And the biggest thing is I'm like, that motherfucker knows exactly what he's doing.
That's right. That's right. So Epstein and Nikolic go back and forth on the optics of how to make this happen. Nikolic says explicitly that Bill Gates doesn't want his name attached to it, but he was nice enough to attach his name to the email by saying Bill Gates doesn't want his name attached to it. We now know his name was directly attached to it. And that Bill would be like okay with it once Jeff got this cleared. But then Jeffrey Epstein, who's certainly not a lawyer himself, asked Boris Nikolic, who is not a lawyer in any way, he's a science advisor, about the optics of this plan to distribute this vaccine in relation to the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, meaning they were actually worried about being in violation of a law, which is the first time I've seen these guys in any of these files worried about violating some law. Never mind the fact he's asking someone who's not an expert. Boris Nikolic, by the way, was one of the 3 people that Jeffrey Epstein made as an executor of his estate, which I don't know what his qualifications were for that, but certainly shows how close the relationship was there. And Nikolic basically says, I don't fucking know either what this is, but they have a discussion about Machiavelli and the art of war, if you will, and what this would mean. And so what Nikolic says in the email on March 6, 2013 is, I rarely find ethical question interesting. I find them a horrible waste of time and resources. I do like old good Niccolo Machiavelli. It all varies on circumstances and weighting out the pros and cons for each specific case. To me, if a leader is using some of the money for his personal gain, but this allows the job to be done, it is super okay. Even at the worst, meaning like weapons, depends what kind of weapons and what could be the repercussions. What he's saying is the ends justify the means, because in order to distribute this vaccine, they would have to get the permission of the Pakistani Taliban to handle distributing it, and they would have to give them a payoff, meaning they're paying the Taliban just like our government does, as Sean Ryan has exposed. We continue to pay the Taliban today in Afghanistan, at least. Can't speak for the Pakistani one. But they were going to pay off the Taliban to be able to get this experimental vaccine given to these kids. God knows what happens to those kids. And in the meantime, in giving them a payoff, they understand that the Taliban's going to use that to buy weapons that could be used to kill American soldiers or anyone who's an enemy of them, civilians in the area, whatever it may be, and cement their power. And Boris Nikolic, science advisor, but apparently, chief emperor of the world to make decisions on who lives and who dies, like it's Game of Thrones, says, yeah, I'm okay with that as long as we get this vaccine tested, and the big guy don't want his name attached to it, but he's implicitly okay with it too. So every time you look at Bill Gates in this story, he gets more and more sinister in different ways. And when you have a nerd, and Bill Gates is a prototypical nerd, who's so obsessed with things that are beyond what their nerdiness is supposed to be. Bill Gates' nerdiness is fucking computers. He's a kid that, was getting shoved in lockers and writing code before computers were even like a thing, or coming up with how to write, whatever you want to say. He then decides to dedicate his life to being the preeminent world expert on public health and, quietly, without attaching his name, test third world country kids with experimental fucking vaccines and all this bullshit using fixers like Jeffrey Epstein. Very interesting.
And Jeff clearly felt confident in this reply to Boris.
Okay, so March 6, 2013 to Boris Nikolic. Let's assume that as Bill gets more known as to his wishes, the bad guys begin controlling more closely the vaccine procedure, referring to the Taliban, and the only way to win them over is to pay the bad guys to allow vaccines. How would you think about it? Terje left 20 minutes ago. That's the Norwegian guy, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is first going to Australia and then the Middle East. That's the Norwegian conservative political figure we were talking about. I told him I will see him in Paris and bring the info, and asks, read Nigeria and Pakistan, which means getting intelligence on how this could be done. I don't know the Nigerian connection. I think Sayer explains that in his subtext.
And just for context too, because we were looking at that earlier, a big point of the Pakistani Taliban was a heavy anti-vaccine vaccination push. So like that's very important to know here too.
So he's trying to accomplish 3 different goals, one of which is also being to change the tide of public opinion in the area, whether it be a terror group or not.
Yep. And he's like, we'll throw you the $5 million, just let it rock.
I keep trying to think what part of the super government level Bill Gates is on. I can't put my finger on that. I don't know if he's on the class below Epstein, or if he is the fixer class, or if he's in the banker class, the top class, with the Rothschilds and people like that. I cannot put my finger there. But what I can put my finger on is that he rules like a mob boss. He gets involved in things as an expert in pure Dunning-Kruger effect that affects everyone in the world without their consent in many cases. And evil guy. I just... Evil guy.
Also looks like a fucking milk dud.
No,
and I'm supposed to take health advice from you? Come on,
he's
guy.
such a dweeb.
Come on.
I mean, he's such a fucking dweeb. Look, it's another really good argument for not fucking when you're a kid. Don't bully kids. This is what you get.
Yeah.
I guarantee you he was shoved into a lot of lockers. I joke about it, but like dead seriously. You know? There's some people that maybe should have been shoved into some more, if I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth there. And then there's other people, it's like, maybe they should have never been shoved in any of them. Maybe you should have fucking made friends with them. Like, Bill Gates is the kind of kid that, like, you know, today might be a fucking school shooter.
I don't want to go too far on a tangent, but like you're talking about the school lockers, it's like I thought the same thing when I saw the headline today with Kash Patel saying, in a historic measure, the UFC fighters are going to be training FBI.
Listen, I advocate all the time for more training for law enforcement, but read the fucking room, Kash Patel. I know you're reading 2 pages at once with those fucking one-eye hunting and one-eye fishing thing going on, but read the room. No one wants a fucking press release about your partnership with the UFC. Just do it. You don't have to tell people about it. I love transparency. There's a line for it, though. There's a line between transparency and showmanship. Are you the director of the FBI, or are you trying to grow your follower account on Twitter? Which one is it? Which one is it?
Yeah, he's like the kid that's working for his dad's small business, and he just dicks off in the back all day and then tells his friends, like, I'm getting fucking money, dude.
Yep.
I own a business.
That's right.
You sweep the floors, Kash.
You sweep the floors.
You sweep the floors.
You sweep. And maybe you can look into, you know, you're so busy over there at the FBI. Maybe you can look into fucking Epstein's potential drug connections as well.
Or what about after your training seminar, we ship you off to Iran? I don't know. You'd get my respect back, Kash.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if he went on the front lines, I'd give him that.
Just run it.
Where are they?
On speed, just bulging out of his head.
It's like the John Kiriakou meme with the laser
Yeah,
beams,
yeah,
but
yeah.
instead of straight, they're just going like this. Yeah.
And he would be like the kid on the football team that doesn't get one of the new helmets. Like when I was in high school and we got football helmets, like we'd get new ones, but then the scrubs would get like the old school 70s bucket helmets. I could see Kash wearing a bucket helmet for sure.
I could see Kash wearing a bucket helmet. Yep, I agree.
He looks like a revolutionary and everyone else is dressed up in 2026 finest.
How has Trump not fired him? He fired Noam the other day, and I know he at least likes looking at her.
It's just perfect idiot. They need, like, you need to have perfect idiots to go and prop up. Like,
the only thing I can come up with is that, you know, he's just a public figurehead. And they throw him to the wolves, and there's really other people controlling the FBI.
Yeah, and if you're a guy like Kash, you got to just look in the mirror and be like, okay, I got to just continue eating shit, and just everyone will hate me, but I'm set. I'm set for life, and it'll be okay.
That's right. Can you click that link about another Daily Mail report about Epstein and drugs? Because there was something really fascinating in this that should not be overlooked. So newly released Epstein files show disgraced billionaire may have facilitated drug trafficking. And the report is may have. We can't ironclad put this down, but there are some strange money transactions that happen at a very strange time. So newly released documents suggest pedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein may have been involved in drug trafficking. The trove of files released by the DOJ show that the Drug Enforcement Agency once opened an investigation into Epstein and 14 other unidentified individuals' money transfers, which authorities believe could have been linked to trafficking illegal narcotics. I wonder why those investigations were closed. DEA reporting indicates that the above individuals are involved in illegitimate wire transfers, which are tied to illicit drugs and/or prostitution activities occurring in the U.S. Virgin Islands and New York City. The heavily redacted memo from 2015 says it shows that authorities in New York opened the investigation into nearly $50 million in suspicious wire transfers Epstein and 14 other targets made starting on December 17, 2010. 2 years after he reached a non-prosecution agreement with the federal government and 9 years before he was arrested on federal sex charges. This is what's really fascinating about this. You know how in the mob, when you get out of prison, they call it you went to college and you come out and they set you up with like a new fucking front restaurant, give you a fucking pile of cash to take home to your wife and your good mod and like, you know, pay you for your silence and all that. December 17, 2010 is a week after his coming home party, which I believe was on December 10th, 2010, the famous one that like Peggy Siegel put together with all the people coming to welcome him home from prison and all that. And suddenly he's involved in, you know, these big wire transfers that involve potentially drugs, potentially prosecution, potentially all the above that, you know, get him up on his feet. Jeff stood up. He went into court. He didn't fucking rat out anybody. Didn't say anything about Dershowitz, who was even fucking there representing him. And, you know, we're taking care of him.
I just get so fucking pissed because like I'll bug out about like doing a minuscule thing that's like not even that bad, and I'll be like, oh, I don't want to get in trouble, and it's like motherfuckers will just like transfer $50 million and get a DEA investigation, and they're like, you're good, bud.
Different set of laws, Steve. You
crazy.
and I
Crazy.
and everyone out there listening, we all have one set of laws, and these people got their own set of laws.
Yep.
And those laws are very, very, very liberal in their interpretation, if you will. They're certainly not strict constitutionalists or nothing like that. But that's a thread that needs to be pulled on more. This is one report I've seen from Daily Mail. There are files related to that. So if people want to send me some of those things, I will admit, man, and I appreciate all you guys, that you know, we've been trying to get so much content out. I'm editing things to get it out and putting out 3 a week and all that. The DMs are like unreal. And I'm answering what I can. There's literally, I'm not exaggerating, there's thousands of them. I haven't even looked at any on Twitter. Like I look through Instagram, I try to get to some, but you know, if I happen to see one and you guys have some more information on something like this, send it. If 20 of you send it, there's a chance I'll see it. So, you know, when we see threads like this that haven't been pulled on enough, we got to stay with that theme and see where that goes, because that's one thing I hadn't heard a ton about with the drugs, but we also now see through the Bill Gates thing, Jeffrey Epstein operating in the Middle East with groups like the Taliban, which we know are facilitating heroin and through the poppy fields and all that. So you got to wonder where, you know, maybe he ran into that as well. Speculation right now, pure spec, but you know, maybe there's something there, because we know our friend John Kiriakou, when he found that shit, they told him, ain't nothing to see here, John.
Yep.
Shut the fuck up. It's not what we hired you for at the Senate Foreign Intelligence Committee to be our chief investigator. You don't go find our poppy fields and tell us to stop doing it.
That's U.S. taxpayer dollars.
Yeah,
right
not
there.
a coincidence he got charged in those bullshit charges shortly after that. I'm just saying. Pure spec.
Pure spec.
Pure spec. I said at the beginning, though, we talked Ghislaine Maxwell and Lady Diana of Wales. This is a tape of, I believe it's Maria Farmer, who, along with their sister Annie, she's been talked about before. They were both Epstein victims and survivors. They live on today, who unfortunately had to spend a lot of time around Epstein and his network. But Maria Farmer is the one I've cited a lot because, man, she has been bold over the years and ignored in things that she talks about very, very openly about power structures and who was who, and you're going to hear it in here. But when you look at the royal family and the dynamics there, obviously Princess Diana dies tragically in Paris in 1997, August 1997. And she was the most famous woman to ever live, I think, by name brand recognition, and was a real rebel to the royal family. Obviously, the deterioration, or am I using that word right? Deterioration of her, yeah. I just blanked out right there. The deterioration of her relationship with, at the time, Prince Charles, now King Charles, was an enormous public kind of scandal with a lot of drama and all that. And, you know, a lot of people were very over, and even at the time, in some ways, were like, come on, with the whole royal family thing still existing in what was about to be the 21st century. But, you know, Diana was basically chosen for this arranged marriage when she's 18 years old. He never loved her, we know that. And then had to be put into this rigorous system where everything you do is controlled. And when she would be a real person and would go out there and, for example, hug an AIDS patient on camera, you know, and support the downtrodden and things like that. Things that you would think the royal family would be like, you know, that's good. We're showing that we're a part of the people. They were like, no, fuck that. You're outshining us. And then when her marriage got worse and worse, and they're both having affairs on each other because they couldn't fucking stand each other, that caused all this drama in international media, and then the royal family hated her, and then she was like excommunicated from there, and then she broke the cardinal rule. She was into, you know, Arab guys, right? And royal family, they don't like that. So she's dating, first she dated a heart doctor. I forget his name, but it was a Pakistani heart doctor. Dated him kind of incognito for a couple years. Hasnat Khan, and didn't work out, I think, because she just had so much attention on her and everything, but she was very in love with that guy. And then eventually dates Dodi Fayed, who, nothing to see here, is the nephew of Adnan Khashoggi. We won't talk about that right now. And meets her demise, which, you know, certainly suspect, a lot of things going on there with her dying. But one of the theories that I've very much opened my mind to over the past year or so is that she was starting to talk about some things internationally all over the place that were no good to the top class. You know, when she was doing, there's the famous picture of her shortly before her death, putting on the hazmat suit, if you will. That's not the proper way to describe it, but walking through the landmine areas. I forget what country that was in. And she was advocating for victims of war-torn places. And I say all this because any place that is a war-torn place is a part of a war that clearly is now being financed by, like, the creators of society, as they call themselves. I'm not calling them that. You know, to continue the business of war. And I don't know. Does that include things like population control and just creating money off of death, profit off of death? Your guess is as good as mine, but certainly starting to quack like a duck, if you know what I mean. And she was very shunned from a lot of the royal family. What that means, though, and what you're going to hear from Maria Farmer in a minute, is that extended to everyone who ran in their circle. Everyone who's a part of that class of society, or is trying to be a part of it, which would include people like Ghislaine Maxwell, who in social ranking in Britain, while Ghislaine Maxwell is certainly a part of the uppermost class there and everything through her father and her family and all that, she's not a royal family type person. She's way below someone like a Diana. And yet, even after Diana's very untimely death, perhaps murder, I don't know, she was saying things like this.
figure out like, how much they knew. I mean, any of that information is really helpful. So.
Right. And she grew up with the royals. Like, she showed me all the photo albums. Well, she also knew Fergie like a long time ago, because I saw pictures of her super young with Fergie before she was ever married to Prince Andrew. And ex-wife. I mean, it was weird. It's like somehow she knew a lot of these people. Now, she knew Prince Andrew when they were definitely like, I mean, she looked maybe 20 in some of these pictures, or maybe younger than that even, with Prince Andrew. And so I can date some of it by telling you that some of the photographs where they're all super young, they were making fun. I'm not kidding you. The pictures of Diana when she was just dating the prince, and Diana's in the corner crying in some of these pictures, and Ghislaine's like, look there, we made her cry. Isn't that funny? We hated Diana. That's what she said. And I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. Ghislaine answers to Wexner. I know that for a fact.
So you think she answers more to
that's how I knew he was
Wexner than like, I don't know, like Israeli intelligence where her dad worked, right? Do you think she's more like under Wexner than...
Right. No, I know she's Israeli. Yeah. Wexner is Israeli intelligence, 100%.
There you go. Okay. So, and by the way, she's talking to Whitney Webb right here, who's one of the most vindicated people in the world right now. That needs to be said. I don't know if I've said that yet, but Whitney Webb's research into Epstein and Maxwell and their network and the networks that exist far beyond them, you know, I don't even care what percentage of it is right. It's certainly a lot of it looks really good, but like the people that poo-pooed that for a long time and were like, what the fuck does she know? Listen, man, she was on it. So here she is talking with Maria Farmer. And Maria Farmer, again, I discussed this might have been 2 episodes ago. Maria Farmer is of all the survivors, she's the one that's the artist who drew Wexner as the head of that fucking reptilian creature and looked at him. She was in Jeffrey's orbit for a long time, looked at him as the leader of it all. And here she is calling him associated with Israeli intelligence, which I think there's a lot of evidence to back that up, by the way. And we know Ghislaine and her father were associated with that as well. And so when you see someone like that from that upper class British society laughing about someone like Diana, and it's also someone in Ghislaine Maxwell who is from the espionage world and the way this quote-unquote world order works, laughing about someone like Diana and talking about how much she hated her. It is more potential evidence to me that they hated this woman for the things she stood for, which happened to be more of the people than of the people who like to control the people. And if you want example number fucking 4,754,000 of the way people like Ghislaine Maxwell think about the structure of our governments and society, look no farther than when she was shilling her bullshit Ponzi scheme shell company Terramar project to the UN back in 2014 or 2015. We'll cut to 440 on that, Deef, in a second. But like, here she is testifying before the UN about this project that wants to handle the 64% of the world's oceans that aren't under anyone's specific control of a government and bring it together as a part of, and I'm paraphrasing here, basically what her idea was, a one world order government of oceans, if you will, which was also dressed up with words like conservation and, you know, protecting the climate and protecting the ecosystem, none of which she actually gave a shit about, but they're just using that as like the Trojan horse to get into it. But listen to how she addresses the people of the UN right here, and particularly listen to how she closes this little innocent sounding speech.
Framework and a decision on how they treat the oceans, and hopefully that will be sustainable, because that is what we, the people, want. A sustainable development goal at the UN is, I think, a fantastic thing. The United Nations is absolutely the right place to lead this. They are the only place that has this global reach. All the people can come together to create this goal.
Oh, look at that,
will
all
then,
the hands.
Be the planetary mandate for the next 15 years of how we treat our oceans. So I really want the people, each and every one of us, 7 billion of us on the planet, to come together, to sign up, to get your passport, to make your voice heard so that the UN and each ambassador can hear what's what we want, and all politicians know that no sustainable ocean means we won't vote them back into power. If we won't vote them back into the power, then they're out. We'll find someone who...
We'll find someone who will. You're out. You're out. Talking to a bunch of world leaders at the UN. It's that simple. We'll vote other people into power. My boss style. When they tell you who you are, believe them.
Yeah, that's one thing that you've put me on to with a few other people we've discussed on the show.
Who might that be?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, Mr. BB himself. But a lot of these fuckers, they tell you.
They tell you, man.
Yeah.
They tell you.
Pretty wild.
Yep. And I'm convinced that when it comes to like the servant class of government and leadership, which is what I'll call it now, and then in particularly the people born into the dominant class, the top of that supra government, there is an inbred sociopathy at the top, and there's an attraction of people looking to rise to be sociopaths into the government class, no matter where it is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pick on any one government with that. So believe it or not, even right now, as pissed as I am about the Iran war, there's a ton of Netanyahus out there in charge of a bunch of governments, in charge, big air quotes there, and they're sociopaths. Just call them what they are, you know? And as I've said before, Netanyahu has like a 1,250 page or something like that autobiography he wrote in like 2022. I read it and I got through it. He tells you who he is, you know? And it's just, it is a hell of a time to be cynical on politicians, which I always have been, at least over the past 6-7 years of my life, but it's on a whole another level now, which, by the way, side note, Thief, before I forget, just when we wrap today later, just leave the cameras rolling for a minute because I got to put a note for earlier on something we said as well, just for context. But again, we'll keep tracking the Ghislaine thing because I think that's there's a lot there that's not being talked about, that she gets lost in the files a little bit because we're so focused on Epstein, righteously so. I'm not saying that isn't where focus should be, but she was instrumental, and she was someone that I think also pulled him into a lot of this world. Not completely. We know he was involved with it in some serious shit, whether it be the Al Yamama deal, Iran-Contra, and all this different stuff before Ghislaine was allegedly in his life. But she was like all right, you've played well in AAA. Do you want to go pro? You know, he was Hugo Stiglitz and she was fucking Lieutenant Aldo Rain. Respected his work, wanted to bring him pro.
I've been telling you got to watch Mr. Robot.
I'll get there. I don't know where you get the time.
I watched, but this episode last night, I was like, it made me think of now. Even just like talking about like the silly Kash comment. And without a bunch of spoilers and such, you can just imagine the country is in full-blown disarray. It's collapsing. And as they look up at this luxury building, there's like all these like elites having a huge cocktail party on the roof. And the line, I'm going to butcher it, but it's something along the lines of like, while the world collapse, they still have cocktail parties to get to tonight. And and it just hits. Because even that, we're going to get ready for UFC at the White House. What an extravaganza. How exciting.
Bread and circus.
Bread and circus.
Yeah. Bread and fucking circus, man. Well, a guy we're going to talk about some more, and it won't just be today, is Jared Kushner. Because it's suspicious. And he is very close to the president, not just as an advisor and the fucking special peace envoy now. The guy just failed in negotiations with Iran and told his father-in-law to bomb the fucking country. But we're going to make him the special envoy for peace. That's fresh off the press today. Jared Kushner's relationships, though, are very, very strange. And the influence he got, I mean, I'll never forget when Trump was given like his first conference after winning the election. Maybe it was on election night. In 2016, I think it was. His whole family came out. They're at the hotel in New York. He just won the election. It's like midnight. And he says, Jared was instrumental in advising this campaign. Great job, Jared. And that was the moment where people were like, whoa, this fucking son-in-law's involved. And then there were a lot of stories on him talking about it. Hit pieces as well. Let me be fair to him. Like, there were pieces where people had an agenda before. But when you see the long-term connections he's had and the types of diplomatic decisions he makes, whether that be, you know, while he's negotiating deals in the Middle East, somehow there's billions of dollars that find their way to like companies associated with him afterwards. I'm not saying there's anything there, but that's kind of weird. That was from Trump term 1. And then, if you remember, Ivanka, his wife, Trump's daughter, and Kushner had talked about stepping aside from politics at the end of the first term. They were kind of done with this. And Ivanka, at least from what we see publicly, appears to have kind of stuck to that. I don't hear a lot about her these days. Whereas Kushner is very, very involved. And a failure right now, again, sent over to negotiate peace. We end with war. That's not a success. But also aligned with a lot of people in the Epstein orbit, including Epstein himself. The first one is an email that we actually pulled up live that was fresh off the press at the time the other day with Henry Abbott, which is from the Epstein files between Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff back in August 2017, where Wolff mentions, great, I'm in D.C. on Wednesday with Kushner. How about Thursday? And Epstein says, I'm in Wednesday to Friday. Go to the next one. Perfect, thief. Next email to Jeffrey Epstein, subject Josh Kushner from 2015, 2 years before. This is April 2015, before Trump declares his candidacy. I think that was on June 15th or 16th, 2015. So he is not a candidate for president yet. But it says, were you the one that introduced him, referring to Josh Kushner, Jared's brother, and Stephen? His girlfriend, Carly Kloss, just did a coding thing for girls. We are about to do something similar at the bank. We can still reach out officially, but always nicer to have a personal touch when possible. Stephen told me he didn't like Kushner and didn't feel comfortable making an intro. Next email. And then this one is from Chris DeLorio to Redacted on May 17th, 2019, a month and a half before Jeffrey Epstein is arrested. Subject line is forward, Apollo/Kushner/Epstein connection. Interesting. Obviously, Henry Abbott's whole thing is going through the Apollo thing, but Josh Kushner, you see the one that says Kushner Black right there? Josh Kushner goes way back with a lot of people in Epstein's network. There's one soup du jour, very dark one I'm going to get to in a minute, but this is also an extremely dark one, where it's a picture of a younger Josh Kushner sitting next to Leon Black himself, and it says, righteously so, if you know the Epstein files, you'll know that this is without a doubt one of the more disturbing pictures you will ever see in your life. And I will addendum that tweet and say potentially. Leon Black is a very, very, very scary sounding guy. He is also one of the 5 people that this week, when Jeffrey Epstein's accountant had testified for 7 hours to Congress behind closed doors, it was revealed by one of the congressmen who was in there that there were 5 people that he said paid Jeffrey Epstein directly that he can attest to as clients, and those included the Rothschilds. We'll definitely do more on them in a future episode. Les Wexner. So that's interesting. He didn't just steal money from Les. He was directly paying him. So it wasn't the babe in the woods routine that Les testified to. Glenn Dubin, who I mentioned earlier, Leon Black, and Steven Sinofsky. So Leon Black, again, paid Jeffrey Epstein to the tune of like $170 million in the last 5 years of his life for estate planning, and is accused of heinous things. Henry Abbott thinks he's like the worst guy, outside of Epstein in these files. And he's also related to a lot of causes. So when you see him with such a young Jared Kushner having that kind of relationship, and then you see the other picture from the New York, or the U.S. Open in New York in 2025. This is Trump term 2, where Donald Trump is literally holding hands in like a, awkward, I got the high ground handshake with Leon Black as peace envoy, real estate fucking guy of New York, Steve Witkoff, looks right at Leon Black. And this is going to be me adding a little context here, but with almost, oh yeah, I'm coming there, Dee, with almost like a look of fawning eyes, and then just chef's kiss in the top left corner with a big ol' smile on her face is my favorite retard, Pam Bondi. So the DOJ head, who's supposed to be investigating these people, is glad-handing with the likes of Leon Black himself, who I believe she's never interviewed to this day, Dee, right?
Bro, this shit's crazy.
Let me defend Jared Kushner. He's not in this picture. I got to say that. He was in the last one, though. And Jared Kushner...
Wow.
Jared Kushner's also related to some guys whose names were redacted in the Epstein files, and this gets really, really dark. This is really, really fucking dark, but it is a very ignored case. One where, and I don't know, I'm pure spec here, Dave, pure spec. Mm-hmm. It is one where the verdict for the case, which did come down correctly, I'll get to that in a minute, it came down with justice for the moment, happened, a week into the Iran war. And ain't nobody talking about it. And I am referring to the Alexander brothers case. Now, if you out there are not familiar with the Alexander brothers, there are 3 of them, unfortunately. They were born onto this earth. Can't take that back. But these are 3 Israeli-American. 2 of them are real estate moguls. The other one runs the family's security firm. I'm sure there's nothing weird there. Who were convicted on all counts of sex trafficking, rape, and many other types of charges. And 2 of them, Tal and Oren, I believe, were the real estate guys who rose up the ranks of Douglas Elliman, a big real estate company in New York, and eventually opened up their own place in 2022. But they're in their late 30s. I think they're like 36 and 37. Tal and Oren, one of which runs the security company, one of which is the real estate guy. They are twins. Or did I get that right? Oren and Alon are twins, I'm sorry. And then Tal is a year older than them. So Tal's in real estate. Oren is in real estate. Alon, I believe, runs, A-L-O-N, runs the security company. Deef will check that right now to make sure I have the right brother on who's running the security company. But the 2 who are in real estate rise up. I'm right. Okay, Deef is telling me, giving me a thumbs up. The 2 who rise up the real estate ranks eventually open up their own company in 2022. But long before that, their clients included Leon Black, Lindsay Lohan, Liam Gallagher, Kim Kardashian, and Kanye West, who probably wasn't happy about that afterwards.
Liam Gallagher from Oasis, bro?
Yeah. Steve Madden, Tommy Hilfiger, and there were more as well. I saw Luol Deng. Took a fucking drive-by on that. They were the real estate agents to the stars. They brokered, I think, the biggest deal in New York history on some penthouse. I read that somewhere for $250 million. And they were known guys on the scene in New York, successful in the world of real estate. Unfortunately, it's way, way darker than that because in December 2024, they were arrested on all these charges, claims of over 30 women, of drugging, raping, sex trafficking, the whole bit. And there was a claim on August 8th, 2019, 2 days before Jeffrey Epstein is found dead in his jail cell, you got it here, Deef, where a witness called the FBI and dropped a massive allegation about the Israeli-American twin brothers, Alan and Oren. So this would be the real estate guy and the security one, and their brother Tal as well, who's a real estate one. She said these guys were at Epstein's New York parties, luring girls upstairs, locking doors, and straight up raping them. Oren allegedly raped her best friend. Tal allegedly raped a 14-year-old who then tried to kill herself by slitting her wrist. This was years before anyone charged these monsters with anything. And they were known on the real estate scene. They were not celebrities or anything like that. They weren't hosting shows on fucking Bravo and talking about all their listings. They weren't known. And this victim, who describes this in detail, and I might add, because of those variables, the detail and the fact that they weren't known and tying them to Epstein as well, certainly has a decent bit of credibility here. I will let you guys be the judge, but can you open up that report, Steve, so I can read it?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of redactions in here, which, by the way, I do want to say this. As I said at the outset, their name was redacted. Their last name was redacted in the Epstein files. And when you look at Kash Patel talking about the fact that the Epstein files proved no sex trafficking, and now we have other people in there who have been convicted of separate sex trafficking as well that probably wasn't even fucking separate, because you have victims who are saying that they were raped inside Jeffrey Epstein's New York fucking mansion by these guys who are now convicted of that. Your government hates you. They are lying to you, and they will keep doing it if you let them do it. Perjury. It's straight up perjury. Kash Patel saying things like that. You useful fucking idiot. Here's the report, though. On blank at blank, and when I say blank, that's redacted. I'll just say redacted. PM Eastern Time, redacted, protected identity, date of birth protected, telephone number protected, provided the following information. Redacted was modeling in 2015 at the age of Redacted when she met Epstein. She attended Redacted parties at Epstein's residence in New York. During one of the parties, Epstein asked Redacted to take a tour of Redacted. Once Redacted, Epstein asked Redacted to, quote, take off her panties, unquote. When she didn't comply, he said, quote, it's fine, I'll pay you $500, unquote. Redacted complied because she thought he was a very important person. In 2016, Epstein slid, quote, his fingers up her dress and, quote, fingered her. At one of the parties, two twin brothers, and they spelled the first one wrong, they spelled it Alan, but Alon and Oren, who were involved in real estate, lured Redacted and her friend Redacted upstairs and locked the door. Redacted, quote, knocked the door back open, unquote, and the two ran back downstairs. Redacted stated Oren raped Redacted, and Oren's brother Tal raped a 14-year-old girl named Redacted, tried to slit her wrist after the incident. This is years before they were accused of this. Now, can we pull up the WikiLeaks link? Steve, because I'm bringing this back to Jared Kushner. Because by the way, this wasn't in that.
I don't know if you did. You see this?
This was not in that screenshot I read of clients. By the way, Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump were clients of the Alexander brothers. They were clients as late as 2021, as well.
You see this?
And what does it say?
This is the second page of the report.
Oh, the second page of the report gets crazier. The same witness told the FBI Epstein threw big orgy parties with young girls, Victoria's Secret models, Victoria's Secret owned by L Brands, which is owned by Les Wexner, and big names like Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump. She said Epstein liked super young, clean-shaven girls with small breasts, had a British socialite recruiting, and even tried to pay her off through a lawyer to stay quiet. She was terrified they might put a hit on her.
A British socialite recruiting.
Ghislaine Maxwell. Wow. All right, pull up the WikiLeaks one.
That's crazy.
Because, as I said, they were real estate agents for Ivanka and Kushner. And so Tal, Oren, and Alon Alexander, recently found guilty in a major U.S. sex trafficking case, had their surname redacted in the Epstein files despite claims from Kash Patel that the files contained no evidence of trafficking. Thomas Massie later exposed the names. Shout out to Thomas Massie for doing that. In December 2020, the brothers attended Donald Trump's White House Hanukkah celebration. Oren Alexander wrote in a now deleted Instagram post, quote, spare your political views. The president just served us kosher food in his house and wished us a happy Hanukkah, unquote. Photos from the event showed Tal and Oren posing inside the White House. Their links to Trump World extended beyond parties. Oren Alexander brokered the $24 million Indian Creek mansion purchased by Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump in 2021, because they operated in both New York and Miami, by the way. The brothers were also fixtures in elite Israeli and American networks. 7 years ago, twins Alon and Oren celebrated their 30th birthday at the upscale Claro restaurant in Tel Aviv with a guest list including Israeli billionaire Sherry Arison and Donald Trump advisor Aaron Jordan. They were also major donors to pro-Israel and Jewish organizations including Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces, United Hatzalah, and the Jewish Federation. One acquaintance described the family as, quote, they are a very positive family, big Zionists. At the very least, at the very least, Jared Kushner is a very poor judge of people to associate with. And that alone should be, there's already disqualifying things for him to be in the positions he's in, negotiating the things he negotiates. And I don't think Jared Kushner's a stupid guy either, by the way. I think he does have some intelligence to him, but like, no pun intended. But, you know, the judgment of people that he has decided to be around for much of his life, especially his adult life, and bring around his father-in-law's circles, while his father-in-law is the most powerful person. Well, I mean, that's just a fucking title these days. Most powerful person in the world. Clearly not, but, you know, listed as the most powerful person in the world. Not a good look. Not a good look at all. And the fact that these guys' names were redacted in the files is fucking disgusting. This has been an active case since December 2024, and it has been very under the radar, by the way.
I'm just saying this just like devil's advocate, just raising the question. Do you think that they might have redacted it because it was like an active case? I don't even know if that's a thing. Could that be? I'm not even trying to give them like any leeway.
No, you know what? You got to be fair. I did not think of that. I have to admit, I should have thought of that. I didn't think of that.
Look at me, dude. I'm a lawyer.
That's possible.
Yeah.
I want to. Maybe we can get some lawyers to weigh in the comments. If you're a lawyer and you have some thoughts about that legally or how stuff like that is usually done as it relates to public and, well, federal or government investigations somehow being released or declassified to the public while certain other things are active, that is way above my pay grade. But on the surface, that could make sense. And if that is the case as to why they did it, then I guess that is forgivable. That said, it doesn't change who they're associating with and the decision to allow those associates in your orbit, which, by the way, also, let's just add something to the pile here. Jared Kushner's pardoned father, who was convicted of, he was a convicted felon before Trump pardoned him, is the current ambassador to France. I don't know what his qualifications for that are, but he is.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, and he was reprimanded by, I forget the title of the person in the French government, where he's now not allowed at like the weekly meetings or something that are a part of his fucking job because he's skipped out on multiple things. Can you find that? I can't remember what it was, but like total clusterfuck. And nothing will happen. He's still the fucking ambassador to France right now. And like I'm the world's not biggest fan at all of Chris Christie. I personally think the guy's a scumbag, but Chris Christie prosecuted that Charles Kushner case, and it's the reason, and I do believe Chris Christie on this, it's the reason he was not named vice president the first time around with Donald Trump, and it's also the reason I think he was not named attorney general later, even though he was helping with, I think he might have chaired the first transition, because Jared Kushner hated him so much for putting his father in prison, and his father was put in prison with a slam dunk case. It was sick shit where he lured a prostitute to like his brother or something like that, did video it and get blackmail on him. I mean, it was a really disgusting thing. And yet he's pardoned and now he's the fucking ambassador to France. That's not embarrassing at all. But yeah, after French Foreign Minister Joël Noël Barrot, what a French name, said Tuesday morning that the no-show would dent the ambassador's ability to serve in France, Kushner telephoned the minister and they agreed to meet in coming days, his office said. French authorities had summoned Ambassador Charles Kushner over comments from the Trump administration that France objected to, but Kushner did not show up for the Monday night meeting. The U.S. Embassy in Paris said in a statement after the call that Kushner and Barrett spoke today in a frank and amicable call. So like now they've made peace, probably after some fucking phone calls were made. So this is updated, but there was a minute there where he was literally banned from like coming to the regular meetings or whatever. I don't have it up, but God, he is not in a position to be there. Just to add a little, flavor to the mix here. Not that we need more Deef, but do you see where it says Kushner and Ghislaine? Again, who you associate with, who are you around, where do you come from, what circles are you running with?
I'm just getting that pulled.
It's right. It's right by where the Kushner Leon Black thing was.
Yeah, I got it.
Here's a younger Jared Kushner and his brother Josh with Michael Bloomberg and Ghislaine Maxwell. Again, you're not guilty of anything just being in a fucking picture at some event where you're photographed talking with what I believe at the time was the sitting mayor of New York. But, like, she's right there, you know. Again, how many times is this going to happen? Leon Black, Ghislaine Maxwell, the fucking Alexander brothers, emails with Jeffrey Epstein, your brother being tied to him. What was it? Like someone was introduced, his wife was introduced to him or something through Epstein, allegedly, or something. Like, your dad's a scumbag. I'm just saying. I always talk about it. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, swims like a duck, fucks like a duck. It's usually a fucking duck. You know, sue me. Don't sue me. But it's just getting, it is getting absolutely ridiculous out here. And again, I've said it now like 40 times in the past 20 episodes we've recorded. Most bipartisan story of my lifetime. Everybody's guilty. This is all of us versus a very select few of people. And they list themselves as D and R's, and they don't even believe any of that shit. So why should we? But I am going to pay more attention to the Epstein Accountant and what's going on there. Very, very interesting things coming out of that whole behind closed door testimony that went on. Obviously, we know the 5 people that were confirmed publicly by one of the congressmen as having paid Epstein, but I want to hear more about the information there. I'd like to see them. I don't know what the legality is there with like guys like Khanna and Massey then being able to reveal things that were said or review the files of the transcripts of what was said and give that to the public. But we need way more. And I'm going to look into the 5 people deeper, some of whom we've already looked into a bunch that they did mention, because, man, some of these ideas are getting real mainstreamed about the types of people who are involved with this stuff and are certainly very guilty in what we're looking at.
Yep.
Well, Deef, we have a whole bunch other outlined in there. Let's do that next week.
Let's do it, dude.
All right, everybody else, as always, thank you for watching this. Please subscribe, like the video, share with your friends. That's been big to get this thing around. We are doing our guest episodes as scheduled throughout the week. There's always at least 2 of those coming out. I do all different types of topics, so you always got a soup du jour of some different fucking thing, because that's how my brain works. I can't stay on the same topic, but this is one topic, the Epstein case, that we are going to continue to cover because it is a major, major story, and they are going to try to make it go away. Whether it's wars, whether it's fucking alien documents, you fucking name it, they're going to find a distraction and throw Lindsey Graham out there to drunkenly tell you about how important it is we fucking bomb a bunch of people that we don't know in the Middle East, because that's what America does, apparently. We don't stand for that, but we're not going to stand for it here, and I appreciate all you guys helping make this thing possible. We'll keep going. Peace. What's up, guys? Thanks so much for watching the video. If you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button before you leave, as well as leaving a like on the video. It's a huge, huge help. You can join my Patreon via the link in the description, and you can also join my clipping community via the Discord link down below. See you for the next episode.